It's Jay back in for another one, and tonight I have with me
Micah.
Malaya.
Hey, you two, how's it going?
Good.
Good. Okay, so we're here to talk about the new Netflix TV show, live action, Avatar: The Last Airbender. It was released on February 22nd, and it's a 8-part series. At first, I originally thought it was going to be 6, because when information came out about it, it was saying that it was going to be 6, or I guess maybe 6 is the first ones that they gave information about.
But it turned out it was 8.
Turned out to be 8, and I'm glad it was 8, because when we thought it was almost over, trying to figure out how can this be over already with the way it was going, we soon found out we had 2 more episodes to go.
We watched them both.
Which we watched them both. What did you guys overall think of this series?
Overall, it was better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Okay. In what way?
Well, once I heard that the original's creators left, I was kind of like, oh, that's going to be interesting. I still want to kind of see how it turns out.
Mm-hmm.
And I know with the movie that we watched, that one I was kind of not disappointed in, but I didn't like it as much. So I was like, is it going to be more like that, or is it going to be different? But it was definitely different in a better way.
Right. And so what about you, Miggie? What do you think of the show overall?
It was pretty good. It was better than I thought it would be. We saw like different type of bending.
Mm-hmm.
We also saw like Katara, like King Boomy blew rocks at her, but she tried it but in water form.
So did you like a lot of stuff that's happening? What do you think about how the characters were?
Good. I think they're like unique. Zuko did a very good job at it.
Did they feel like the characters that you knew from the animated series?
Yeah.
Which one you thought felt more like the animated series? Who do you think they did a good job with translating into live action?
I'd probably say Aang.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I did Aang. Yeah, I like the guy who played Aang as well. I thought he had this real kid vibe and this charm about him and innocence, which is not always easy to pull off. So that was kind of neat to kind of witness that. I thought they did a great pick with him. Every time something was heavier going on, you know, when he smiled or when he was concerned, you kind of rode along with him, you know, even though he might not have been the center of attention on every episode necessarily, he still was kind of like your guide on the tone of what was going on and how you should feel about stuff.
Yeah.
I think it was easy to relate to and to hold on to. Yeah. So from Malaya, so to you, what do you think of the translation of the characters?
It was pretty good. One of the characters I thought they did really well with Zuko, with their actor, because it actually showed like his struggle through all of this and like his relationship with his Uncle Iroh. I thought like that was translated pretty well.
Yeah, I thought so too. I didn't complete the series, but I have to complete it now, and you've been getting on me for years to get on it, and then I was thinking like, I'll kind of just wait until this comes out. That way I won't be spoiled of anything. Even though I remember seeing a lot more than I thought I did. Because a lot of stuff was, or the way it was set up, I was like feeling like, is this something up with this or whatever? So some of that stuff is just because our plots are done. And some of it, like I said, I think I've seen the episode and I was like, oh, okay, I did see that part. So I thought it was pretty cool. I think it was a fine line of kind of kiddie, but kind of adult. So it's a little bit of both. So some stuff I was surprised. And so, but I think they found a good medium because sometimes you see stuff, especially that's been translated from an animated show to live action. It could be kind of hard. So the way they did it, I thought was cool. It was entertaining. After seeing the whole series, it was interesting that everything that they had in the movie that M. Night Shyamalan directed, and that was like 2.5 hour movie, that same span was covered in this 8-hour series. It made it apparent how much really was missing from the movie and how the movie was a shorthand and how this is like a longer format. And even with episodes, you know, totaling 8 hours, even that didn't encompass all the seasons of the animated series. For you two who've seen the whole show, right? You've seen all the seasons and stuff. I know from what I've seen so far and then watching this series, even though it's really good, I think I really would have loved it if I didn't know what was missing. How did it feel for you all to know more that's going on but not being shown? How was it to see that?
It was kind of cool because I was like, oh, that's how they're going to make this happen. That's where they're going to put it in. Or, oh, they're not, you know, putting this in. But at the same time, it would have been nice if I didn't know anything.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be as bothered, I guess, or as particular for what they were going to show or what they weren't going to show.
How about you, Miggie?
Like, there's some part I was surprised that they were actually going to add. Like when the spirit died, I was surprised they're gonna add that.
Did you feel like the fact that you know the animated show well?
Yes.
Watching this show that's live action, do you have a preference on which one you liked better? Did you like the animated one better, or did you like the live action better, or was it about the same?
I think it was about the same.
Okay. Do you feel that you learned more or something different from the live action than you did from the original cartoon?
Yeah.
What did you feel like you learned from the live action?
I kind of learned like their personality and like know more about them, because sometimes you see stuff that they add in the show. In the movie, you get to know more about them than in the show.
Okay.
You get to know more about them in the movie.
And how about you, Malaya?
Something that I really like that they did. I'm not sure. I forgot what episode it was in, but one of the soldiers on Zuko's ship was kind of like, talking bad about him, all this stuff. And then Uncle Iroh was explaining to him. He basically saved them. Mm-hmm. Like, he was explaining this whole story, how he went to like a meeting for like the war, and one of the generals was like going to sacrifice a whole troop. It was like Troop 41 or something like that. And Zuko's like, oh no, you can't do that. Like, those are fresh recruits. You can't just sacrifice people. Like, they're doing this to save their country or whatever they consider it. And we end up finding out that the only reason why that Zuko's crew was with him is because he was trying to save them. And his father, as a punishment, was like, well, you can take them then if you care so much. Yeah. And I thought that was really beautiful because they didn't explain it like that in the show, in the animation.
Yeah.
So it was cool seeing that perspective on it, because I was like, oh, like, I don't know, they were just with him.
Yeah, that's cool. I really liked how they kind of fit all these different characters in. And even though they were not in the same order or even the same setup for the situation, it was still neat to kind of fit them in. How'd you feel about that, about characters being fit in a certain way that wasn't traditionally how they were introduced?
Some places where people were added in, I was like, okay, that's not bad. Like, they fit there, like, based off certain things. But at the same time, it was kind of like, like, okay, I guess.
Yeah. One part or some characters that really stood out to me was those women warriors.
Oh, Kyoshi Warriors.
Kyoshi Warriors. That was a great episode for me, and then just the characters and stuff. And I don't know, I guess their journey and their interactions with the different characters, I thought was really, really, really done well. I know it's hard for shows to do this, but it was a lot of layering and things going on in different places at the same time. And so you might be following one situation, but then you get a flash over to the other side and how they're preparing, what they're going through. Because we had a story for Zuko, but then also for his sister at the same time.
Yeah.
And then you still learn about the uncle and stuff, because you're hearing about these things, how he was this great tyrant, right? But then what we see of him is more, easygoing. It's interesting to see how they played and how he played the character, where people see him one way and he's something else, and he's trying to present a different thing, for everybody else, but you can see through it. And the same thing with Zuko. It's almost like Zuko and his uncle was almost the same character in a way. And so nobody really understood Zuko like his uncle, because his uncle had to wear a mask as well. And people saw him as a certain way. And if you really knew him, you would know it was a misunderstanding, So it was just nice how that wasn't just all given. It was given in time and by actions and comments and things like that. So I like how it was laid out and revealed.
One thing I was surprised they showed some characters early, because sometimes it takes maybe 6 episodes to get to a new character. When he got to Mashu, there was this air kid. By the way, also, when they made it, it was a character from 6 episodes before that. In the show, they didn't show him because you meet him at another air temple, but in the movie, you see him at the Earth Kingdom instead.
Teo, but the engineer.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he's talking
about. Okay. Yeah, I liked Teo. I thought it was kind of interesting. Like I said, the translations of the characters was really done well. And like I said, it's interesting because it was so close in a way where sometimes when things are translated so closely, it could come off kind of cartoony, and I heard people say cosplay, but I thought they found a good balance.
Yeah.
Even when it comes to movies and stuff, and you see we're going to do this elaborate interpretation of this cartoon or this superhero's outfit, and we're going to make it more realistic. And even though you'd be excited for that when you see it, you're like, man, I just like the costume when it was simple.
Yeah.
You know, because it's almost kind of like cosplayers almost have a respect for it in a different kind of way. When it's for movies and it's got these costume designers, they trying to elaborate and show how we could do this smarter. And cosplayer, they want the essence of what that thing looks like and feels like. They want that silhouette. And so they find that nice mesh of finding real world, but also giving what they love about that thing. And if I'd have heard like cosplayers design these costumes for these characters, I'd be like, okay, that makes sense because they found that nice balance. Yeah. We always see better costumes at the Comic Cons than we do like in the movies when they're supposed to be an interpretation of a costume. So that was really neat. I will say I was a little bit, as far as story part, it was interesting for me because I didn't finish, like I said, I didn't finish the animated one. So to see the end and the way the end kind of resolved, to me, it was real different than what I was expecting. And it's even different than how it was in the movie that was out. And so in a way, even though it wasn't what I was expecting, it was kind of neat because it was very different than what I expected. So it was a nice kind of surprise to see it done. And you said that was even done a little bit different interpretation too from the animated, right?
Yeah.
And so I also thought it was cool with the special effects and how special effects was, they really added to it without it being distracting. It was nicely well done. And it also made me wonder why, like when they did Appa and as good as he looked and many times as Appa was shown, it was weird. Like the movie didn't have that.
Yeah.
You know? And this shows too, and I'm sure it showed in the animated series as well, is how important these creatures are to the world. Like there's all these magical creatures that walk among them like regular pets. And so for that to be kind of negated in the movie, it was really cutting off a lot that really could have added to the world as well. So it was nice to have that in the show. Like Momo and just different animals were kind of there. Yeah. Even though sometimes they were there conveniently, but it was still kind of neat to have that. It made the world feel real in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, something I noticed. I'm mixing up the episodes, but you know how I was telling you how they switched up the names? Like if they're talking about the history behind Omashu.
Yes.
And they're saying that the lady was Shu and then the guy was Oma. But it was actually the lady was Oma and the guy was Shu. As soon as they said that and they messed it up, I told you. I was like, that's not right. And we went to the animation and it was like, yeah.
Yeah, you were right. And that was a good catch. So I'm wondering what the reasoning was, or like you said, it was just an accident. But yeah, that was a good catch because you're very sensitive to this kind of stuff. So it was interesting to see when something you didn't necessarily agree with or thought was interesting, your sound effects is just like, oh, something must not be right. Something not hitting right. So kind of nice to have you as that buffer. Micah too, even with pronunciations or how it ties in with the show. Boomy, his friend Boomy. I like that episode. I like that character.
He was better in the show.
You like him better in the show
Yeah.
than the animated show?
Yeah. In the show, he's more like aggressive in the show.
So, okay, so how did you guys feel about how he was presented and his trials of Aang, the series versus the animated series?
I liked it better in the animated series.
Yeah, I like him
I feel like that was more of a, like, this is my friend, he didn't realize it was me, so I'm going to mess with him a little.
Yeah.
Versus in the show, it seemed like he was like, well, that's not my friend anymore. He left me, he left the world, like, you know.
Yeah, it was more like you wanted to teach him a lesson about getting tough about things, more so than the surprise of who he was.
Yeah.
It's like he kind of revealed pretty quickly, you know who I am, I know who you are. Mm-hmm. And now I need to kind of give you this hard lesson. And then he also showed like a little resentment because he felt like he just left him.
Yeah.
You know, and it's interesting the different lessons he would get from different folks as far as like, you need to, rule like this, or you need to rule like that. You need friends, or you need to be on your own, or you need to be a warrior. So it's neat to get everybody's different interpretations of avatars. Even from the avatars from the past, they all had different ways of ruling. And it was almost kind of like a thing where he had to find his own way because everybody had their own way of being the avatar. Mm-hmm. And he's going there looking for answers. And once again, these are the kind of movies I like where you're walking around with the answers with you the whole time, but your journey is understanding that you have everything you need. That's why I like The Last Dragon. That's why I like Matrix, Neo, and all that kind of stuff. I love those kind of stories. And so this was kind of one of those kind of things as well. I liked how it was dealt with, and with Aang being a kid and from his level of understanding. And because a lot of times you see grown folks walking around confused, and it's kind of like, that don't make no sense, even though that could be real. But it's neat to see a kid kind of working that out and being mature, but also being, being optimistic or hearing something and thinking like, okay, an adult told me this, so this just must be the answer, instead of chewing on it. So some of the stuff that if adults saw something and their mind just changed about it so quickly, you'd be like, that don't make no sense. Why would you just do that? But a kid would be like, well, it's an adult. They would know more than me. They must be right. So I like how that was kind of dealt with, and it made sense for the character. Anything else?
I was really surprised how some parts of the movie was actually happened in the show that made it more realistic.
Yeah, they did a really good translation. Like I said, I think they did really good with the casting. I think they did pretty good with the writing. Some of the stuff, I think I still kind of feel like, for me, I was enjoying the show. I was missing a few things that I remember seeing from the animated show, but I also think that they probably figured that we put this in the movie, so we don't probably want to reshoot the movie and the animated series. So they found a balance of stuff that they can still use that haven't been touched on, so they can make their thing a little bit different. I wanted to bring up too, I loved when Zuko and Aang teamed up, even though Aang didn't know that's who he was.
Yeah.
And I loved the whole thing where they were good together and showed how much they were really alike, and Zuko kind of fighting the feeling of liking the Avatar. He was just so set on his mission to prove himself that he wasn't really reading the room for what it was. Because if he didn't have all this other stuff on his back, as far as proving himself to his father and leading these guys on this, impossible mission, if he'd have met him any other kind of way, what Aang said, which was true, they would have been friends. And I thought that was nice that they showed that. And I'm glad they felt it was important enough to put that in there. Yeah. They could have skipped through it, because like this one had a little bit of a different kind of narrative. So I'm glad they decided that was important and to keep that. It really added. Because you can always kind of see Zuko fighting his mind versus his nature. Because his nature, he's just a kid. He wants to, he's soft, he's understanding, he's optimistic. But he has to be this warrior. He has to be this kid. He has to be this grown man. So, like when they said the thing about the mask, he has many masks that he's wearing just so he could deal with his life. Yeah. And so it was neat to see him playing this tough guy, but it was also great seeing when he couldn't hold it, or when he felt like he would let it slip. Like he let it slip with his dad, and he lost everything. So he was overcompensating for everybody else, to the point where everybody was hating him because he just didn't know how to turn it down, because he saw when he was acting, compassionate and understanding, how it backfired. So he really, you could see that he was trying to just keep his guard up. And the only person that he would find himself with or feel comfortable to be himself with is when he was with his uncle. And his uncle always tried to make sure that he was in a place to be that for him, to feel free enough to really be him. Because he knew that pressure had to be getting him, and he knew he probably needed a release. And so it was nice that Zuko had that release throughout, so he just wouldn't just implode. That was a lot to carry. His uncle's doing the same thing too, trying to be strong and holding in. So, because he had expectations for him as well.
Yeah. It was very interesting to see how much, his dad affected him.
Yeah.
Because, before he was really, a sweet person. And even Aang could see that, something must have happened to you. You weren't always this way.
I love that was acknowledged.
Yeah.
Because you could tell. He was just hurt. And, he was scared.
Yeah. It was interesting, too, how his sister was dealt with, and that whole...
Yeah, that was interesting.
What'd you think of that?
I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it. Because in the animation, I guess she was more ruthless. But in this show, it made it seem like she wanted to be perfect, yeah, but I don't know how to even explain how what I'm thinking.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting how the father kind of, played her and wouldn't give her any credit no matter what she did. It's like, I'm sure he was trying to toughen her up, but then at what cost? He's ruining the relationship that she's having with her brother, even with herself. He's constantly breaking her. So I thought it was interesting how that was. And then even when she knows that, and everybody's telling her, like, he's just messing with you. It wasn't good enough. She still wanted his approval, regardless of the truth or how it seemed to everybody, as far as like, hey, he isn't right, he isn't fair, he's wrong, like regardless he's wrong or whatever, I still want this approval. So I thought that was interesting how hard she was really fighting for that,
Yeah.
because he surely wasn't going to give it to her. And, so it's just interesting how he treated both his kids. Yeah. And even him trying to hide his feelings. He's definitely ruthless. You could still kind of read his feelings for his kids, as far as like being prideful or disappointed or understanding and stuff. But he kind of gave him no slack regardless. Even when Zuko kind of was being careful of not hurting him and kind of having, compassion, because he could have gave him that striking blow. And even though he understood why he didn't do it and showed him mercy, that's not what he wanted for him. And so it just kind of shows too how parents could be trying to do their best, but if they don't have a good understanding as well, they could also, give wrong lessons when trying to give the right one. And how even if you're an adult, you don't know it all, and you can still kind of get it wrong. Because in his head, he probably think I need them to be able to take over if anything happens to me, or to be strong on their own. But what's the balance? What's the sacrifice you're going to give one for the other, or can you have both? What's the middle ground? So again, and it's interesting because this show really touched a lot, and it really wrapped up a lot too, with the whole concept of balance, and what you get when it's balanced and what you get when it's not balanced.
In the animation, it was more of a sibling rivalry, because it showed like a flashback, and it's like Azula was like the perfect daughter, and she was good at everything, good at doing this and good at doing that. And then Zuko, here and there, you could tell he would mess up and stuff. And it was like, it wasn't bad. And that's when they showed Zuko's mother. I don't know if that was for the first time or not. They showed that their mother liked Zuko more because he seemed to have more compassion and more, kindness than Azula, versus Azula being more like her dad. But in the show, it seemed like different. It wasn't quite like that.
Yeah. So all the episodes for the most part was pretty strong. I think they fit a lot of stuff inside each episode. We were talking before, we were saying about 3 episodes each. So they kind of like chose 3, kind of tied them together into one episode, because each episode is around an hour. I think it was a lot to put in to the show, but I think they did a pretty good job of, like I said, finding new things to put in there, finding things that would tie together well, characters that would tie together well, that would push forward the narrative of the story. I think the last episode I felt was a little crowded. Yeah. I understand them wanting to put more in it, but I think there was a lot going on, and they could have used either one extra episode or a plot point left off.
Yeah, and just waited until...
or work it in some other kind of way. Because it did feel overly stuffed when I felt like, even though a lot was going on in each episode, at least it felt breathable and you didn't feel confused. Yeah. But that last episode, I was kind of like, let me rewind this part again. How does this work? Or what's this new concept that's kind of being put in there? But yeah.
I feel like the last few episodes, there's a lot put in there. Because they're talking about, like, the Heibai, like the black and white spirit, or like the spirit of the forest, and there's a lot going on with that. And then they brought in, I can't think of his actual name, but he goes by the Face Stealer. And that was interesting how they did that, and they dragged it on for a few episodes, and I was kind of like, oh, did he forget about his friends? I was like, there's a lot of other stuff going on when he seemed to be in a hurry, too.
Right.
And what else? And then, like you were saying, the last episode was pretty crowded because there's a lot of stuff about spirits, but then there's also about the moon and the water spirits too, and it was a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, and it seemed like it would have heard that from the tribe.
Yeah. And
then when the bad guys brought it up, and be like, oh, they know the same information versus the bad guy explaining it. It's out of context in a way, So he's using it trying to use it to defeat them. It was interesting to hear about that lore from the bad guys versus the people who we just got introduced to with our main characters. It seemed like that would have been a thing that would have been spoken by them about their beliefs and their culture. So
a lot of stuff I felt like was just kind of put in there so they could have it in there versus it going with what was happening.
Yeah. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I think it was a fun watch. I think it was entertaining. Kept our attention. Kept us wanting to keep watching, for sure. Wanting more. I would definitely be up for another season. What about you guys? What do you think about another season?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it had enough in there. And like I said, I've seen other translations that were horrible. So I thought this was a nice balance of interpretation.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have any final words you'd like to say about the show? Would you recommend it?
Yes, I definitely recommend it to other people.
Now, who do you think would like it? Do you think people who like the original show would like this show?
Yeah.
Well, I think that this show is closer to the animated show. And so people like the animated show, a lot of them probably didn't care for the movie. So you think the people who like the animated show would like this one, right?
Yeah, it has more action to it.
And so do you feel if you like the movie, you think you would like this one, this TV show? Because it has like more information and it takes its time. Think so?
Yeah.
And so what about you, Malaya? What do you think? Do you think folks would appreciate this who saw the animated show?
Yeah, if you're anything like me and you love the show, I think this is a pretty good spin-off.
Okay. And so what about the folks who... It had mixed reviews, so people who liked the movie and people who didn't like the movie. So if people who didn't like the movie, do you think they would like this show?
Yeah, I think they would like it better.
Okay.
But, everyone has their own opinions on things.
So as people who did like the movie, do you think they would like this show?
I'm kind of mixed on that, because some people would kind of be like, well, I like the movie better, versus, kind of giving it a chance and being like, okay, yeah, this is pretty cool, too.
Yeah.
But then there might be some people who are like, oh, yeah, this is even better than the movie. But it all depends.
Yeah. I saw the movie first, even though the show was already out, and I didn't see a problem with the movie only because I didn't know any better. But when I saw the actual show, started watching the show, I saw how much I was missing, and it made me feel differently about it. But did I like the movie? Yeah, it was fine. But when you knew what it could possibly be, it was hard to take it the same way. So I really enjoyed this show because I thought, it gave the best of both worlds. If you want to see something live action, but had more information like the animated series, this was a good medium. And the movie was just a whole different take on it. But I thought this was a good balance, and I really enjoyed it. And some of the stuff made me think, like, how come the movie didn't do this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I'm glad I'm getting it in this longer format because this show has so much going on. It's hard to put in 2 hours, right? Mm-hmm. We watched 8 hours and it still wasn't enough. And so, anything that would be a movie based off of this wouldn't do any justice to the story at all. Not unless you just took one section and just made that into a movie and that was just one quick little story thing versus this whole epic saga boiled down to 2 hours. Just don't work. All right. So we all kind of recommend it?
Yeah.
Yes.
And we all kind of enjoyed it?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. So you heard it here. We all dug it. We all enjoy it. Check it out. It's on Netflix, streaming now. All 8 episodes all at once.
Or maybe more, hopefully.
Yep. Hopefully more soon to come. I would say it's easy to binge. It's easy to watch a couple episodes, marinate on it, and then go back to rewatching. That's kind of how we handled it.
To see what things were the same, see what things were not the same.
Yes. Yeah. You have to compare the two. But I think that it works both ways. It works good as a binge and it works good as taking your time with it. Just because of past binging, sometimes you just watching to get through, but you don't really... You could be sleep deprived, still trying to watch a show, and you're halfway remembering stuff, halfway seeing stuff. And it's like, did I even really watch it? I'm sitting in front of there watching it, but am I really watching it? And so to take a little breaks in between, I think we got more out of it that way. And even though the geek in me wants to just go ahead and have it all, the person who really wanted to enjoy it was like, let's take some pauses in between and do it that way. Yeah, so I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed watching with you too. Like I said, you guys are my experts on the show, and I referred to both of you guys a few times about things that was coming up or to find more insight or understanding. So it was good having you too. All right, so that was Jay, Miggie,
Micah.
and May. Oh, go ahead.
Micah.
All right, till next time. Peace.
Peace.